How to Control Your Mind for Success. Audiobook. Your mind is the battlefield. Every dream you chase, every goal you fight for, begins with one simple truth. If you can control your mind, you can control your destiny. But here's the question: who's really in charge of your thoughts? You, or your fears? You, or your past? This is not just another motivational talk. This is a war cry for your future. For the next 30 minutes, you will discover how to silence doubt, conquer procrastination, and unlock a level of power inside you that you've always felt but never fully owned. This is not theory. This is transformation. This is how to control your mind for success. The war within. Understanding the mind's power. Your mind is the most powerful force you possess, more powerful than your talent, your background, your education, or your environment. It is the command center of every decision you make, every action you take, and every emotion you feel. It is both your greatest weapon and your most dangerous enemy. And yet, most people spend their entire lives at the mercy of it, not realizing that the real war was never outside. It was always within. You see, success doesn't start with a strategy. It doesn't start with a goal, a business plan, or a vision board. Success starts with the mindset that makes those things mean something. Because without control of your mind, everything else will collapse under pressure. It will fall apart when you're tired, when you're afraid, when things don't go as planned. Without mind control, discipline is temporary, motivation is fragile, and self-belief, it crumbles with the first sign of failure. Look around. People chase success, chase freedom, chase peace. But they do it while dragging a chaotic, undisciplined, and reactive mind behind them. That's like trying to build a mansion on sand. It will never stand, because the truth is, no matter how big your dream is, your mind will either build it or break it. And the scariest part, most people never even realize they're losing the battle. They confuse noise for thinking. They confuse anxiety for awareness. They confuse self-doubt for humility. They wake up, react, cope, distract, repeat, and years pass. Goals remain dreams, and dreams fade into regrets. There is a war happening inside you every single day, a war between your old self and the version of you that's trying to rise. A war between your fear and your future. Between the voice that says I can't and the one whispering what if I can. And the first step to winning that war is to understand that it's happening. To stop living on autopilot and start becoming conscious of the patterns that have been running your life. Because your mind is not just thinking random thoughts. It's running a program, a deeply embedded set of beliefs, habits, and emotional reactions built over years of repetition. Many of those beliefs were installed without your permission, by your environment, your upbringing, your past failures, your pain. Maybe someone told you that you weren't smart enough, that you weren't worthy, that you should settle, that you should be realistic, and maybe you started to believe it. Not because it was true, but because it was repeated enough times to feel familiar. And the mind loves familiarity even if it's destroying you. But here's the truth they never taught us in school. Your mind can be trained, just like your body, just like a muscle, just like any skill. You can reprogram the way you think, the way you react, the way you talk to yourself, and what you expect from life. But that kind of power doesn't come from wishing. It comes from awareness. You have to step back and observe your own thoughts. You have to learn to recognize the enemy's voice not out there, but in here. The voice that says, "What's the point?" The one that says, "You'll fail again." The one that tells you, "You're too late." That voice is not truth. That voice is the residue of your past. And you are not your past, you are your potential. You must stop identifying with the limitations of your mind and start leading it like a warrior, because until you take control of your thoughts will control your life. And they won't lead you toward greatness, they will lead you in circles. Fear-based loops, procrastination, emotional sabotage. You don't break those patterns by working harder, you break them by going deeper, by asking yourself, who am I when I'm not reacting? Who am I when I'm not afraid? What am I truly capable of when I stop letting my thoughts define my worth? This is not just about thinking positive. This is about thinking powerfully. It's about becoming the architect of your inner world, so that no matter what chaos is happening outside, you remain centered, focused, and unshakable inside. The mind, once understood, becomes a tool, a weapon, a servant of your purpose. But left unchecked, it becomes your master, and it will make a slave out of your potential. The voice in your head, identifying the inner critic there, is a voice that speaks to you every single day. It's with you in the quiet moments when no one is watching. It echoes in your mind right before you try something new. It shows up when you look in the mirror, when you stand on the edge of change, when you begin to believe just a little in the possibility of more. And what does it say? It whispers things like, "You're not good enough. This won't work. People like you don't do things like that." It asks, "What if you fail?" And then answers with, "You probably will." This voice is not your intuition. It's not wisdom. It's not realism. It is your inner critic, the invisible force inside your mind working to keep you small. And the most dangerous part, most people don't even know it's there, or worse, they think it is them. You must understand this. The inner critic is not your true voice. It is a program built over time, formed through repetition, shaped by experiences, words, trauma, and emotional wounds you never fully processed. It's the accumulation of all the moments in your life when you felt judged, rejected, compared, abandoned, or overlooked. And every time you internalized those moments, they didn't just fade away, they became scripts. Scripts your mind replays every time you step into discomfort, every time you try to grow, every time you get close to something better. It's not trying to ruin your life, it thinks. It's keeping you safe. But in protecting you from pain, it's also keeping you from purpose. That inner critic was born in childhood for many of us. Maybe it came from a parent who told you to be realistic every time you dreamed too loud. Maybe it came from teachers who only saw what you did wrong. From kids who laughed at your differences. From moments where you tried and failed and no one helped you get back up. Maybe it was shaped by a world that praised your perfection, but punished your vulnerability. And over time, your mind learned a dangerous lesson. It's better to criticize yourself before anyone else can. It's safer to shrink before someone tells you you're too much. It's easier to stop trying than to risk failing. And so now, as an adult, every time you move toward growth, every time you aim higher, that voice tries to pull you back into the familiar cage it built for you. It disguises itself as logic. It tells you you're being practical. It says you're protecting yourself from disappointment. But what it's really doing is holding your potential hostage. Here's what most people don't realize. You can't silence the inner critic by ignoring it. You silence it by exposing it. You weaken it by dragging it into the light and saying, "I hear you, but I'm not you." You begin by separating yourself from that voice, seeing it as a pattern, not an identity. Thoughts are not facts. Feelings are not instructions. Just because your mind says you're not enough doesn't make it true. It only makes it familiar. And you are not here to live a familiar life. You are here to live a powerful one. The first step is awareness. Start to notice when the voice shows up, when you're about to speak up in a meeting, and it tells you to stay quiet, when you want to start something new, and it reminds you of everything that went wrong last time, when you're proud of yourself for a moment, and it says, "Don't get ahead of yourself." This is the moment where you pause, not to believe it, but to challenge it. Ask yourself, whose voice is this? Really? Who taught me to doubt myself like this? Who planted these words in my head, and why am I still letting them grow? The truth is, you are not broken. You are not behind. You are not less. You are simply carrying a voice that doesn't belong to you. A voice that was created in survival, but has no place in your success. And if you do not consciously rewrite the script, it will keep running the same story, day after day, year after year, until your future starts to look like your past. The voice in your head is powerful, yes, but so are you. And the moment you recognize it's not your truth, it starts to lose its control, rewiring your thoughts. The power of conscious thinking: everything you are, your habits, your confidence, your fears, your relationships, even your bank account is a reflection of one thing: your thinking. The life you're living right now is a direct result of the thoughts you've repeated the most. Thoughts are not just ideas that come and go. They are the architects of your reality. They shape your beliefs, and your beliefs dictate your behavior. And behavior, over time, becomes your destiny. If you've ever felt stuck, like you keep running into the same walls no matter how hard you try, the problem is not you, it's the wiring of your thoughts. But the good news is, you can change the wiring. You can take back control. Your brain is not fixed. It's not set in stone. It's not something you're cursed to live with just because of how it was shaped in the past. Science has proven something incredible, something your teachers, your parents, and society probably never told you. It's called neuroplasticity, and it means your brain can literally change. New thoughts create new neural pathways. The more you think a thought, the stronger the connection becomes. That's how habits are formed. That's how identity is formed. And if your past thoughts built a prison, your new thoughts can build a door. But only if you choose to think them on purpose. Most people never do. Most people live in reaction. They don't think, they replay. They're not conscious, they're conditioned. Something happens, and they go straight into old patterns. A challenge shows up, and they immediately think, I can't. An opportunity arises, and they instantly think, I'm not ready. Someone criticizes them, and their mind says, see, I knew I wasn't good enough. These thoughts feel automatic, but they are not destiny, they are just rehearsed. You must start thinking on purpose. You must become intentional, because every time you catch yourself in a limiting thought and replace it with an empowering one, you are not just thinking differently, you are becoming different. You're upgrading the system. You're breaking cycles. You're no longer just reacting to life, you're designing it from the inside out. This is the true power of conscious thinking. Think of your mind like a garden. If you don't plant anything, the weeds will grow. The weeds are the doubts, the fears, the insecurities, the memories of failure. They come back fast. They don't need permission. But if you want something greater, if you want clarity, confidence, peace, drive, and belief, you have to plant it, water it, protect it. And you do that by choosing your thoughts like your life depends on it, because it does. It starts small. Maybe it's as simple as catching yourself when you say, I always mess this up, and replacing it with, I'm still learning, but I'm getting better. Maybe it's hearing the thought, I'm not the kind of person who succeeds, and interrupting it with, I'm becoming the kind of person who does. You don't need to lie to yourself, you just need to speak from possibility, not fear, from growth, not defeat, from vision, not limitation. Every day you get to decide which thoughts you entertain. Your mind is a battlefield, but you are not helpless. You are the observer. You are the gatekeeper. You are the one who decides what stays and what goes. This is not about toxic positivity. This is not about pretending everything is perfect. This is about choosing thoughts that move you forward, even when it's hard, especially when it's hard. Because the thoughts you think when you're under pressure, those are the ones that define you. Anyone can think big when life is easy. But real transformation happens when you choose empowering thoughts in the middle of fear, in the face of doubt, in the storm of uncertainty. That's when your brain starts to rewire. That's when your identity begins to shift. That's when the old version of you starts to fade and the powerful version, the focused version, the version aligned with success, begins to rise. Discipline over emotion. Building mental resilience. Mind is not just a thinking machine, it's an emotional battlefield. And every day, you're not just facing distractions, responsibilities, or obstacles. You're facing your feelings. Feelings of doubt, feelings of fear, laziness, frustration, overwhelm. The truth is, most people don't fail because they lack potential. They fail because they haven't learned to act beyond how they feel. They're motivated one day and broken the next. They set goals when they're inspired, but abandon them when they're tired. And that is where the difference is made, not in talent, not in luck, but in discipline. Because motivation is a spark, but discipline is the fire that keeps burning. We've been sold a lie. The lie that we should wait until we feel ready, that we should listen to our emotions, that if it feels hard, maybe it's not meant for us. But growth doesn't care about your mood. Progress doesn't wait for perfect conditions. Success doesn't ask how you're feeling, it responds to what you do in spite of how you feel. And that is the definition of resilience. Doing what must be done. Even when every part of you wants to quit. It's not about denying your emotions. You are human, and emotions are real. But they are not reliable leaders. They are messengers, not masters. One moment they lift you up, the next they drag you down. If you build your life on feelings, you will live in cycles: start, stop, try, retreat, dream, delay. But when you anchor your life to discipline, to decisions made in alignment with your vision, not your emotion, everything changes. You don't just react to the world, you create from within it. Discipline is not punishment. It's power. It is the bridge between who you are and who you're becoming. And every time you choose it, every time you get up when you don't feel like it, every time you stay focused when your mind screams for distraction, every time you show up for yourself when nobody's clapping, you are proving to your mind that you are in charge now. And that rewires your identity. That builds trust with yourself. That's where self-respect is born, not in talk, but in repeated, disciplined action. Think about it. How many times have you let your emotions decide your outcomes? How many opportunities did you avoid because you didn't feel confident enough? How many workouts did you skip? How many projects did you delay? How many boundaries did you break? Just because the emotion of the moment felt more urgent than the vision you committed to. And how much longer are you willing to let that version of you lead your life? It's time to draw a line in the sand. To stop negotiating with your feelings every time the path gets hard. You don't need to feel like it. You just need to do it. Because what builds success is not intensity, it's consistency. And what builds consistency is not motivation, it's discipline. Discipline is showing up when it's inconvenient. It's training your body when it's sore. It's writing when you're uninspired. It's speaking truth when your voice shakes. It's making the call, doing the reps, reading the page, saying no when temptation knocks. Discipline is the quiet work done in the shadows that no one sees but everyone eventually feels. And the beautiful thing is, discipline is not something you're born with. It's something you build. It's a muscle. And like any muscle, it grows through resistance. So don't avoid the resistance, lean into it. Every time you conquer a small urge to quit, you're building mental armor. Every time you delay gratification for a higher purpose, you're laying a brick on the foundation of a resilient mind. And resilience doesn't make you superhuman, it makes you unstoppable. It doesn't make life easier, it makes you stronger. Vision and identity. Becoming the person who succeeds at some point. Success stops being about what you're doing and starts becoming about who you're being. This is the part most people never reach. They chase tactics, routines, morning habits, and hustle strategies, thinking that doing more will finally push them to success. But all of that effort, all of that action, all of that motion means nothing if it's coming from a broken identity. Because the truth is, you don't get the life you want, you get the life you believe you deserve. And you will always, without fail, act in alignment with the person you believe you are. That's why people can work so hard and still sabotage themselves. That's why they get close to success and then pull back, because deep down, they're still carrying an identity that says, I'm not worthy of this. I don't belong here. I'm not the kind of person who wins. And without ever realizing it, they'll create just enough chaos, just enough delay, just enough doubt to prove that identity right. This is not laziness. This is not a lack of potential. This is the mind doing what it's designed to do, keeping you aligned with the internal story you've repeated for years. If you want true, lasting transformation, you must go beyond action and address the root, your vision and your identity. Who do you see when you close your eyes? Not who you hope to be, but who you are right now in your mind. Are you still clinging to the version of you who was rejected, overlooked, underestimated? Or have you stepped into the version of you who claims what they want, who shows up with purpose, who owns their space without apology? Your identity is the thermostat of your life. You can achieve more, earn more, grow more. But if your internal setting is still stuck on not enough, you will subconsciously find a way to cool everything back down. And the only way to change that setting is to first create a new vision, one that pulls you forward. A vision that's bigger than your fear. A vision that doesn't just excite you, it requires you to become someone stronger. And then, from that vision, you begin doing something powerful. You stop asking, what do I need to do? And you start asking, who do I need to become? This is where everything shifts, because now your goals aren't just tasks, they're evidence of a new identity. You don't wake up early just to check a box. You do it because you are the kind of person who honors their time. You don't speak with confidence just to impress others. You do it because you are the kind of person who believes their voice matters. You don't work out just to look good. You do it because you are the kind of person who chooses strength over comfort. And over time, these choices begin to hardwire a new sense of self, not just a version of you trying to change, but a version of you that is changed. The shift happens when success is no longer something you're chasing. It's something you're aligning with. Your actions start flowing from a place of truth, not force. You no longer need to convince yourself to be disciplined, to focus, to rise above distractions. That's just who you are now. And when your identity catches up to your vision, the resistance fades, the fight becomes purpose, the path becomes clear. But make no mistake, this shift is a process. It doesn't happen overnight. It takes repetition, commitment, and patience. It takes breaking away from old environments, letting go of outdated versions of you, and surrounding yourself with thoughts, habits, and people that reflect the future you're building. And it requires the courage to declare, even in the silence, I am not who I was. I am who I choose to become. Silencing distractions, the focus formulae in today's world. The greatest threat to your success is not failure. It's not fear. It's distraction. We are living in a time where your attention is under constant attack. Every second, something is trying to steal your focus, your phone buzzing, social media feeding you comparison, news headlines feeding you anxiety, people pulling at your time with things that don't align with your vision. And the dangerous part, most of it feels harmless. Just one more scroll, just one quick reply, just 5 more minutes. But little by little, these small distractions steal hours, then days, then years from your potential. Focus is not just a productivity hack, it's survival. It is the ability to protect the most valuable resource you have, your attention. Because where your attention goes, your energy flows. And where your energy flows, your life grows. If your attention is scattered, your energy will be divided. And divided energy produces weak results, half-finished goals, and a mind constantly spinning in circles without direction. Think about how often you've been right on the edge of momentum. Maybe you sat down to work on your dream, to start the project, to finally build the thing, and just as you began to gain clarity, a distraction pulled you away. And suddenly you're down a rabbit hole of other people's lives, opinions, noise, and you forget what you were even working on. You lose the rhythm. You lose the fire. And eventually, you tell yourself the lie that it wasn't the right time. But it was. It always was. You just gave away your power. Distraction is not just an external problem, it's an internal weakness. Most distractions don't come from the outside. They come from within. We seek them out because they give us a moment of escape, an escape from boredom, an escape from discomfort, an escape from the pressure of becoming who we're meant to be. And deep down, some part of us is still afraid to be alone with our thoughts, to sit in silence, to fully face the responsibility of our potential. So we scroll, we binge, we avoid, and we tell ourselves we're too busy to focus when really we're too unfocused to prioritize. If you want to rise, if you want to truly master your mind and dominate your goals, you must learn the sacred art of focus. You must become intentional about what you allow into your space. That means creating boundaries that protect your peace. That means turning off the notifications that interrupt your flow. That means designing an environment where your vision is louder than the noise, because you cannot create a masterpiece in the middle of chaos. You cannot build an empire while constantly being pulled into other people's agendas. Start by getting honest with yourself. Where is your focus leaking? What habits are draining your attention? Who in your life is constantly pulling you away from alignment? What apps? What conversations? What environments trigger distraction instead of discipline? Awareness is power. And once you see where the leaks are, you can begin to seal them with intention. Create time blocks where your phone is on airplane mode and your space is sacred. Practice the discipline of saying no, not because you're rude, but because your time matters. Learn to single task instead of multitasking your life into mediocrity. And most importantly, reconnect with the why behind your focus, because focus without purpose becomes pressure, but focus with purpose becomes power. And here's the truth. Focus isn't about doing more. It's about doing less, better. It's about clearing away the clutter until all that's left is your mission, your craft, your truth. When you silence distractions, you finally begin to hear yourself again. You begin to move with clarity. You begin to execute with precision. And in a world addicted to noise, your ability to focus becomes your superpower. The mind-body connection, fueling your brain for battle your mind, may be where success begins. But your body is the engine that powers the journey. If your body is exhausted, foggy, undernourished, neglected, you can't expect your mind to operate at full power. You can try all the affirmations, all the mindset techniques, all the motivational speeches in the world. But if your body is running on fumes, your clarity will be clouded, your emotions will run wild, and your discipline will feel like a distant dream. This is the truth many ignore. If you want a strong mind, you must build a strong body to support it. There is no separation between the mind and body. They are not two parts, they are one system. Your brain is an organ, and like every other part of your body, it is fed by what you eat, how you breathe, how you move, how you rest. If you treat your body like a dumpster, your mind will feel like one. If you start your day with sugar, caffeine, and chaos, your mind will be on edge before you even begin. If you sit all day, never move, never train, never stretch, your body becomes stagnant, and so does your thinking. Most people don't have an energy problem. They have a lifestyle problem. They're tired not because they're doing too much, but because they're fueling themselves with too little of what actually matters. They scroll before sunrise, skip breakfast, or overload on empty calories, drown themselves in stimulants, and wonder why they can't focus. Their sleep is broken. Their stress is unprocessed. Their bodies are inflamed. And their goals feel heavier every day, not because the dream is wrong, but because the machine meant to carry it is breaking down. Your brain functions on fuel. You need high-quality nutrients, hydration, and oxygen to think clearly. You need movement not just to stay fit, but to regulate your emotions, to release stress, to balance your hormones, to activate that primal energy that tells your mind, I am alive, I am capable, I am ready. Every time you train your body, you're not just sculpting muscles, you're strengthening your mindset. You're choosing discomfort on purpose, so that when life throws real adversity your way, your nervous system already knows how to stand tall in pressure. Movement is medicine. Whether it's lifting, running, stretching, walking, or anything that gets your blood flowing, it changes your state. It interrupts anxiety. It breaks mental stagnation. It unlocks creativity. Some of your greatest breakthroughs will not come while staring at a screen. They will come in motion, when your body and mind are aligned in rhythm, when your breath is deep and your heart is strong. And let's talk about rest, because this is where warriors are forged in silence. If you're grinding non-stop, if you're treating sleep like weakness, if you brag about how tired you are as if exhaustion is a badge of honor, you are not being productive, you are being reckless. Your mind cannot perform without recovery. Sleep is not just sleep, it's memory processing, emotional regulation, cellular repair. It's your brain's reset button. And when you skip it, your mind becomes foggy, reactive, irrational. You don't need more time. You need better recovery. Rest with purpose so you can rise with power. And never forget hydration. Your brain is mostly water. Even a small amount of dehydration can impair cognitive function. You want focus? Drink more water. You want clarity? Take care of your body. It's the simplest shift that most ignore, and it's the fastest way to regain control of your state. Fuel your body like someone who values their purpose. Move like someone training for greatness. Rest like someone preparing for war. Because this is the machine that carries the dream. And if your body breaks down, your mind will follow. But when you align them, when you live in a state where your thoughts, your breath, your energy, and your movement all speak the same language, then you become unstoppable. Your new mental operating system, daily routines for mind control. There comes a moment in every transformation when inspiration must become installation. When the fire inside you has to be transferred into action daily, structured, repeatable action. Because success is not built in a day. It's built daily. Your mind is like software, and just like any operating system, it runs on programs. Those programs are your routines, your rituals, the choices you make when nobody's watching. And if you want to control your mind for success, then you need to install a new mental operating system, one that doesn't run on chaos, confusion, and reaction, but on clarity, power, and intention. Most people wake up every day with no system at all. They start their morning in panic, checking notifications before they even check in with themselves. They go from one task to another, responding to life instead of leading it. They rely on motivation to get through the day, and when that motivation fades, which it always does, they collapse into old habits. That's not a mindset problem. That's a system problem. That's why no matter how many times they start over, they keep ending up in the same place. Because the system running their life is broken, or worse, it was never built to support their goals in the first place. If you want lasting control over your mind, it starts with mastering your routine, not a routine that feels overwhelming or unrealistic. Not a routine that changes every time you read a new book or watch a new video. A personal system crafted by you, for you, that aligns your daily actions with your highest values. This is not about doing more. It's about doing the right things, consistently, and it starts the moment you wake up. Your morning routine is your first victory. It sets the tone for the rest of the day. It tells your mind, we are in control. We lead. We decide how this day goes. Even just 30 to 60 minutes of structured solitude in the morning can change your entire mental state. You don't need to do what everyone else does. You don't need 10 steps, but you do need clarity. Your morning should include at least 3 pillars: stillness, movement, and intention. Stillness to ground yourself through meditation, prayer, breathwork, or silence. Movement to wake your body through stretching, walking, training. Anything that connects your mind and muscles. And intention to define your focus. Review your goals. Visualize the version of yourself you are becoming. Don't let your day begin by accident. Start it on purpose. Then come your daily habits, the patterns between the big moments. The way you speak to yourself in silence. The way you show up when things get boring. The way you return to focus after being distracted. These micro-moments are where transformation lives. Make it a ritual to check in with your mind throughout the day. Ask yourself, am I acting from emotion or purpose? Am I aligned with my vision or drifting into autopilot? These questions pull you out of reaction and back into power. And when the day winds down, don't just collapse into distraction. Your night routine is your final act of self-respect. It's your reset button. Use it to review the day, not with judgment, but with awareness. What worked? What didn't? What do I need to improve? Journal your thoughts. Disconnect from devices. Nourish your rest. Prime your subconscious with powerful intentions. You don't need to master every day, but you do need to finish it intentionally. Because how you end the day determines how you'll start the next dot. And through all of this, remember, it's not about perfection. It's about pattern. You will slip. You will have days where it all falls apart. But the system is not built to make you flawless. It's built to make you resilient. It's the anchor that keeps you from drifting too far. It's the structure that brings you back to center when life throws chaos your way. And over time, with repetition, your mind begins to associate these rituals with strength, with clarity, with purpose. Your mental software updates, and the old, self-sabotaging patterns begin to fade, not because you fought harder, but because you replaced them with something stronger. Relentless execution, mastering the mind in action. At some point, thinking must end, visualizing must end, planning must end, and execution must begin. Because no matter how aligned your mindset is, no matter how sharp your vision or how strong your routines, nothing in your life will change until you move. The greatest minds in history were not remembered for what they intended. They were remembered for what they did. And that's what separates the successful from the stuck. Not intelligence, not talent, not resources, but the ability to act with relentless consistency, even when it's uncomfortable, uncertain, or unrewarded. Your mind was never meant to be a storage space for dreams. It was meant to be a command center for execution. But here's the challenge. Most people never build the bridge between knowing and doing. They consume knowledge, repeat affirmations, write down goals, but when it's time to follow through, they freeze. They hesitate. They analyze. They wait for the right mood, the right moment, the right sign. And that delay, that tiny gap between decision and action, is where the dream starts to die. Because execution doesn't wait for emotion. Execution doesn't care how you feel. It's a decision. It's a discipline. It's a demand that says, I move because it matters, not because it's easy. The mind will always offer excuses. That's its job, to protect, to conserve, to keep you in familiar territory. So you must learn to act faster than your fear. You must reduce the space between your intention and your behavior. The longer you think about it, the louder the resistance grows. But if you act quickly, if you step forward while your fear is still forming, you gain the upper hand. You teach your brain that you are not ruled by hesitation, but led by conviction. That's what execution is. It's not about being fearless. It's about acting while afraid. It's not about having all the answers. It's about moving forward. While the questions remain, execution requires urgency, but not panic. It's not about rushing through your goals. It's about removing the weight of procrastination. Every task you avoid is an emotional debt that compounds. You don't need more time, you need less delay. You need to condition your nervous system to see action as relief, not stress. To feel peace not when everything is done, but when you've begun. That's when momentum kicks in. That's when the pressure starts to lift, not because the work got easier, but because you stopped waiting. And the secret to relentless execution isn't just intensity, it's rhythm. Anyone can push hard for a few days. Anyone can get fired up for a short burst. But execution that leads to greatness is not loud. It's not dramatic. It's relentless repetition of the fundamentals. It's mastering the boring, showing up when no one is watching, choosing structure over chaos, choosing alignment over emotion, choosing now over later. You don't need to be perfect, you just need to be consistent. That's what compounds. Small, focused action over time is what separates those who talk about change from those who become it. Every day, every choice, every step, you are casting a vote for the person you are becoming. And the more you show up, the less your old self can survive. You must become the kind of person who executes by default, not out of hype, but out of habit, not because you feel like it, but because your identity demands it. That is the ultimate level of mental mastery when action is not a debate, but a reflection of who you are, when your behavior is no longer determined by how hard the path is, but by how committed you are to finishing it. Because greatness is not a moment, it's a mindset lived out through daily movement. It's a decision you make over and over, especially on the days when it's easier not to. And if you want to build a life of extraordinary meaning, results, impact, then you must master this one truth. The mind is only as powerful as the actions it produces. Claiming your power every day you have traveled far in this journey, exploring the depths of your mind, learning to quiet the noise, fueling your body, building rituals that serve you, and embracing relentless action. But now, the most important truth remains. Control over your mind is control over your destiny. Your thoughts are not random. Your emotions are not enemies. Your distractions are not accidental. They are signals, challenges, invitations to rise, to grow, and to master. Success is not a secret guarded by the few. It is the natural outcome when you decide to own your mind with unwavering commitment. It is forged in the moments you choose focus over distraction, discipline over comfort, execution over hesitation. It is lived in the daily battles that no one sees, the quiet victories won in silence and solitude. This power you seek is not outside of you. It has always been inside. It's the part of you that refuses to settle, the part that believes in the unseen possibility, the part that wakes in the darkest hours and whispers, "I will rise today." You stand at a crossroads. One path leads back to the old patterns, familiar, safe, but limited. The other leads forward to a life sculpted by your mind, fueled by your body, aligned with your purpose, and propelled by relentless execution. The choice is yours. The moment is now. So claim your power, own your mind, and step into the life you were always meant to live. Because controlling your mind is not just the key to success, it's the key to your freedom.